What's up, sports fans, and welcome to the Sports Opinions podcast. I'm your host, as always, Alex Cuesta. With me today is one of the writers for lineups.com, and he is everything BIG3, Oliver Maroney. What's up, buddy?
Hey, I'm doing well.
That's good to hear. So where can people find you if they want to look for your work? Obviously, lineups.com, but anywhere social media-wise, Twitter, Instagram?
Yeah, you can find me at O Maroney NBA. So both those places, Instagram or Twitter, O Maroney NBA is where you can find me.
That's awesome. So I was really intrigued I obviously seeked you out, messaged you, said, come on, and you agreed to, which is awesome. I'm pumped about that. And I looked at your profile and I saw everything BIG3, and that's not common. Honestly, you don't see people that are really super invested in the BIG3, which is a shame because I think the BIG3 is pretty cool. I like what's going on there. From your aspect of it, since you're obviously vested in it, you enjoy it. Do you think it's something that is going to last as a sustainable league that is going to be around for a long time?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is a lot of these players retire not out of not wanting to play anymore, but just the fact that teams don't feel like they're good enough. And so I think a lot of the times you have players who want to try and prove them wrong, who want to continue playing, who want to just have that locker room camaraderie. So you're always going to have not only the big names, but the smaller guys as well that have done well in the league or done well overseas that want to prove themselves on a national stage, somewhere that they could be nationally televised. And I think more importantly, a lot of these players just didn't choose to retire. It just happened. And like I said, I think that's a big part of, creating a league that's sustainable. I think having guys that are invested in it, having guys that want to continue playing is really important. And I'm not necessarily saying that the NBA or the G League or other leagues don't do that, but I think this league in particular has allowed like the family atmosphere to come in. I mean, you see guys like Brian Scalabrine for the first time ever having his son see him play in the Garden.
Now, hold on one second. I know you cover the NBA, but we could be fair here and say that the BIG3 is better than the G League. I'm sorry. BIG3 play is much more exciting to watch in G League basketball. Yeah,
I'll agree with you there. I mean, we've had Xavier Silas was like the G League MVP, and he didn't even get much of a run in the BIG3 this year. So it tells you like how good the talent is. I think when you look at these players, I think it's perfect because you shorten the cord out because these guys, their fitness level may not be what it was 10, 15, 20 years ago from when they were coming into the NBA, but they still have the basketball IQ. They still know how to shoot the basketball. They still know how to do the things that they were great at. It's just they cannot do them at the level of 82 games, back-to-backs, flying, driving all over the place. They can't do that anymore, and I think they can if they really want to, but I think a lot of these players realize this is just a really good format for them to play in, to be able to continue to do it at a high level and to be able to continue to make friends and enjoy the journey and be, like I said, be able to have your kids and family members there on hand for maybe the first time ever. I think it's a really, really unique opportunity for the players and the fans to be able to see this up close and personal.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And I believe that the Olympics is actually adopting 3-on-3 basketball. If I was seeing, it's becoming a world stage thing. I think, did I read that correctly somewhere that the Olympics is going to take it on?
They are. Yeah, they are going to take it on. So I believe it's
guys from this current league created Team USA team. Are they going to kind of rip into the G League or under 20 team to make it? What do you know how the plans are to comprise this Olympic team?
Well, 3-on-3 basketball is the most played basketball around the world, actually. That's why Ice Cube and Jeff Quatnitz, the co-founders, kind of started it, was because it was the most popular form of basketball. It's, what we grew up playing. But in terms of the team and who would be on it, typically, FIBA's had a 3-on-3 kind of basketball league for a while. That's kind of international. And it's lower level guys that played at D3 colleges or things of that nature. Nobody really high profile or named. So it'll be interesting to see who does end up becoming a part of that team. But primarily, I believe they use just the FIBA players currently as constructed. Now, whether that changes, I would presume, the BIG3 had an impact on the Olympics going that route and having 3-on-3 as part of it. So maybe 2, 3, or 4 years down the road, you start seeing, the United States kind of basketball 3-on-3 level change to where you have players, coaches, etc. from the Big Three as well. But right now, as it speaks, no, I don't believe any of them are a part of it.
But that'll be exciting. It's going to just be exciting to see because 3-on-3 basketball is fun. Now, I have to ask you, Kobe rumors. Are they true? I've heard, he wants to come and play, and then I heard, no, there's no shot he comes and plays, enjoying retirement. What do you know about that? Are we going to see Kobe on a Big 3 basketball court anytime soon?
No, don't get your hopes up for that. I don't think it's going to happen. It's interesting. I think there's two kind of frames of thought. First of all, the way it was reported was not correct. It was on a conference call that the Big Three had. Jeff Kwan, that's the co-founder, basically said he had heard a rumor that Kobe may or may not be joining the league. Take it for what it's worth, I think is what he said afterwards. And then the person just wrote, Kobe is joining the league. And so it was a quote that was taken out of context. Look, I think the other thing that you have to take into consideration, a lot of these high-profile guys don't want their legacy tarnished in any way, shape, or form. You look at, and I don't want to use this as a bad example necessarily, but Allen Iverson was supposed to play in the league last season. He ended up playing a couple of games, shot the ball pretty poorly, didn't look great after working out and doing all he could to kind of get back into shape. And so, not that it's going to change anybody's opinion because he pulled himself off the court pretty quickly, but the fact that, he wasn't able to kind of keep up or play the same way or be able to do what he used to be able to do, I think negatively impacted him and his fans.
Well, he kind of proved a lot of things that were said about him when he was an unbelievable NBA player, just that his work ethic really wasn't there. And for a guy who was supposed to be such a big draw, that was one of the disappointing parts. And that's something that could have really dismantled the league if it wasn't strong already from the core to have such a big name touted so big and that AI is going to play. And then he's a no-show for week one. He plays like 2 games, doesn't play, like you said, doesn't play well. If this league wasn't strong, if guys like Kenyon Martin, Rashad McCants, Corey Maggette weren't really holding it together, it would have really just fallen apart right then and there. So it's really – people don't see it that way, but I think it's big on Ice Cube and the top brass to hold that league together despite their biggest ticket guy not showing out.
Yeah, no doubt about it. They've done a very good job at acquiring talent, getting the right guys in. You've got young players, old players, guys who just retired, guys who've been retired. A lot of them have the passion for the game, and they've got the work ethic, and they work out in the offseason. Guys like Ricky Davis can still dunk and do windmills and this and that. You've got a lot of guys that still play the game at a very high level. It's, like I said, just that grind of an 82-game season just isn't there anymore. So to be able to have all those guys and to see them in person and just see how still, good they are at the game of basketball, to me, it's quite impressive. It's fun to watch. These guys really enjoy it.
It gets
there's
fiery.
Definitely a different
It gets fiery sometimes.
It does,
guys.
It does.
Last thing I have to ask you: any new players that are surprises coming? Any guys that you know of that are coming to the Big Three this year that haven't been widely reported? Who is the big names that are joining now this upcoming season?
Well, you got to look out for players of that were teammates with some of these guys. I think the guy that should be a name that should be looked out for is Gilbert Arenas. He showed up to a practice the year before last, actually, so the inaugural season. I think it was in Los Angeles, and he was draining 4-point shots, and he looked really good, actually. Whether or not he plays, I don't know, but there was kind of an outstanding bet that, Cube said, get yourself in shape, and I'll put you as a team captain or whatever. We'll see if that happens, but I think Gilbert Arenas would be a guy to look out for. Other players, look, they've added a ton of talent. The draft pool is massive. They had I want to say it was 75 or 80 guys try out for 15 spots. So we'll see what happens. I think guys are going to continue to come back. It's going to grow. It's going to improve. Jamal Crawford's going to be a name that you're definitely going to see pop up whenever his NBA career comes to an end. The other guy that wasn't really mentioned too often, but Jason Terry is another guy who has said he's joining the Big Three whenever his NBA career's up. So those are the names that I'd be looking out for. I don't have any news to report necessarily, other than those three guys being widely kind of distributed among the league and through a couple different players that they're very interested in joining.
That's awesome. Two guys I'd like to see. I'd like to see Richard Jefferson go up there and tear it up, and I'd also like to see Jimmer Fredette stop messing around in the European League and just come play some big three ball. I think the 4-point spot is designed for a player like Jimmer Fredette.
No doubt about it. You come prove it. Yep.
Yeah. So, all right. So we're going to move on. We're going to switch some gears. You're a soccer fan, which we don't have too many guys that are big soccer fans on here, which I happen to grow up playing soccer. I love soccer. I'm actually wearing one of my Team USA jerseys as we speak. Question right out the gate. Is soccer ever going to take hold truly in the United States? The MLS is building steam. They're adding new teams all the time. I'm over here in New York. I grew up in Jersey. Red Bulls Arena sells out constantly. You're in Oregon. Over there is like the capital. The Sounders, the Timbers, they are basically the mecca of soccer in the United States. Is it going to ever is the MLS ever going to take hold? Is soccer going to become a thing in the United States?
If it is, it's going to be the construction of the MLS as it is currently changing. And I don't know if there's a foreseeable future where that happens or not, but I was talking with Kyle Martino, who does his NBC sports stuff and used to play in the U.S. and overseas and whatnot. And he basically, I agree with him wholeheartedly. You have to have the MLS become relegation and promotion eligible. You have to have these teams go from one league to the other. You have to have a way of getting, the small cities that have, maybe fewer fans but more passionate fans, give them the ability to go into the higher ranks, be able to create this like geographical passion. That's what they have in Poland. You walk around, you see Timbers jerseys all over the place. The Timbers Army is rowdy and ruckus, and they have a support for the team. But even then, it still isn't to the level of, like, I've been over to England. My father's from England. And it still isn't to the level of that. But it's close. You can see that it's almost replicable. I think really when it gets to, like, the nuts and bolts of everything, if you really want to change it from grassroots soccer up, and I wrote about this a while ago, you really have to change the way soccer is distributed to youth individuals, kids across the country. Right now it's pay for play. If you're a good player, you're paying your way to play club soccer and competitive soccer, and you're traveling with this Olympic development team. There's lots of politics involved. The best players in our game right now, Messi, Ronaldo, grew up playing in the streets, grew up playing with friends, pick up soccer here and there, and then being found by these massive clubs like Barcelona and putting them into a feeder team where they didn't pay a dime. It's almost like boarding school where they just ship them off, and these kids play for 9 months a year and get schooling at the same time. They can play year round. We don't have that here. If you want to do that, you have to pay for it, and it's very expensive. And I think it's the same sort of situation as your lacrosse, your golf, things of that nature.
Yep.
There's an economic level. Exactly. There's an economic level that needs to be matched in order for you to kind of succeed. And it's unfortunate. There's not many U.S. soccer players that have come up. Clint Dempsey's kind of the obvious one where he grew up in the trailer park in Texas or whatever. But for the most part, kids are found by these clubs and these feeder teams and Olympic development programs and this and that, and you pay for everything. And unless that changes, you're casting such a small net that you're not going to be able to find these kids.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I've gone as far as to say there's two things that we've needed to change. And I think I've talked about this before, and I wanted to write a piece on it. I never got around to it. But one thing that we need to have is every single MLS team needs to have an official academy where you said is basically like a boarding school where if you're talented enough, they find you and they pull you, and all of a sudden this is where you go to school, this is what you do, and you're a soccer player. And until that happens, we're never going to be able to compete. And also, NCAA needs to get out of soccer. I think college soccer is an abomination. They don't follow any international rules. Subs can go in and out as they please. There's no limit there. There's no stoppage time. The field is even different sized. I cannot stand NCAA soccer. I used to be a collegiate athlete, ran track and field at Marist College. The NCAA just irks me, and I think, especially in soccer, if you go on and you're a super talented player and you go on to play college, you're handicapped because you don't experience true soccer there. You're better off going to just continue to play with your club team for the rest of your life and then get noticed that way. So it's unfortunate, and there is changes that need to be made. And so I'm not even talking about the international soccer side with Team USA, because I just think that that's in shambles. And until we get a real coach, I thought Klinsmann was good, but he was a little too rigid for us. We need a real coach to come in and understand American soccer, how we play, and then kind of mold us into a true international style.
Yeah, it's got to happen sometime, because it's just never going to get any better, unfortunately, if something doesn't change. And I really thought the U.S. soccer presidency was a big deal as well. You know, you have to influence and change how the youth sees the game, how they're allowed to play it. I mean, I used the example, I wrote this story a while ago, but, you know, I grew up playing soccer. I played college soccer. I was a pretty good high school player as well, and grew up in the club system, but my parents didn't have enough money to pay for it, so I ended up working a job part-time in order to pay to play club soccer. That's how much I wanted to do it. Now, not every kid wants that. Not every kid, you know, sees that opportunity or gets that. So, but there was a kid in my middle school, you know, foreign exchange student type, came from overseas. Parents didn't have any money, lived in a small apartment with a bunch of brothers and sisters, and you know, he's the best player on the field by a long shot. Anytime we played gym ball or, you know, whatever, we're out on lunch, recess break, he's killing everybody, me included. And, you know, he wasn't playing anywhere because he didn't have the money. He didn't have a place he didn't have somebody to drive him to and from the soccer field. And it was one day I was like, look, come out to my club tryout, see however you like it. My parents drove him with me. It was this whole thing. Club picked him up. We got him on a scholarship, and you know, that's the only way that happens. That's the only way that, you know, and he ended up being like an Olympic development player, a kid who was, you know, top 20 or top 15 in the state, a good soccer player. But that doesn't happen if somebody doesn't say, hey, you need to come here and you need to do this, you need to do that. The system is so confusing for most people. That's what needs to change. The economical portion of it, and then just the system in general. You just have to have a go-to spot. Here's the academy. It's off this street. Go to it, try out, or however you decide to figure it out, and build it from the ground up. And I just wish we've got so much money coming in to soccer and to U.S. soccer and everything. I just wish they would put more into it for kids who really deserve it or deserve the chance.
Completely agree with you. Completely agree. So we're in agreement that youth soccer needs to be revamped in order for us to ever get on the map, which I don't think that's on the horizon. Even though the MLS keeps expanding, it's difficult to see that because football, basketball, baseball, even hockey have a bigger stranglehold. But I hold confidence there. You're an EPL fan. I'm an EPL fan. Unfortunately for you, you're a Newcastle United fan. I'm a Man City fan, not a bandwagon Man City fan. I grew up in a place named Manchester, New Jersey, and everyone else liked Man United, and I hated that. So I went for Man City back when I was young, when they were actually
good on
bad.
you.
When they were bad.
Yeah.
So it's like I've been a fan for a long time. I'm experiencing the championships, the competitiveness. Even though I'm not a fan of the head coach and all of his bravado, the team is great. I love it. Who are you? I think Man City is going to take the EPL this year. I know Arsenal's playing out of their mind right now. Who do you think is taking it this year?
Yeah, I think Man City probably will take it. Pep Guardiola's got a lot of pizzazz about it. I love, you know, the one thing about him, and yes, you talk about bravado. Any big-time coach, unfortunately, it just feels like they have bravado now. You don't have your Sir Alex Fergusons anymore or your Arsene Wengers who barely talk and don't really say much. Now you've got these guys who just, you know, they're prima donnas like the players. But I think in terms of his style, it's just one of the best. I mean, he brought that Barcelona kind of system. They play very free-flowing. It's built around triangles on the field. I really like the way they play. I like the players they have. Obviously, they've got a lot of money to do that.
They've
So
become the Yankees of the EPL. They really have. Even though
yes,
the Yankees don't have
yes,
the highest payroll this year, the Red Sox do.
yes.
So
But hey, I mean that's in world soccer, if you pay your way to it, you can usually end up close to the top or the tops. And I think the way they've built it is pretty good. I think their team is, it's really talented. Arsenal's been great. They've been really fun to watch too. They've been moving the ball around very well. I think they were clearly the better team against, I can't remember who I was watching last week, but Ozil had just a couple of brilliant assists and goals. And that team's good. Anytime they're on the big stage against the big teams, they always end up somehow faltering. It just happens. I don't know what it is with Arsenal, but they're a top-tier club, but they're not a championship-level club, and I've never really viewed them that way. They always buy guys on the low and then sell high on them. They never keep them through their primes. And look, this is a very general term that I'm using, but for the most part, that's how they've been. They're a high-end selling club. Newcastle's a selling club. Arsenal's a high-end selling club where they'll keep their guys to a 30, 35 goal season or whatever, and then they'll sell them to your Manchester Cities or your big-time teams like your Barcelona. Thierry Henry's a great example. They build him up. He becomes this great player. He's scoring all these goals, record Premier League season, and then they sell him off to Barcelona and they get somebody else to try and fill in. It always seems to not work in their benefit when they do it that way. Obviously, they get a lot of money for it, but the team just ends up taking a little bit of a slip or a fall. And it's what it is. Every club has their own way of operating, but I think Man City will probably take it just because that's not their mentality.
that's just music to my ears. So we're going to switch from football to football, American football. We're going to jump in. You told me you were a Bears fan.
Yes, been a Bears fan for a long time.
How are you a Bears fan?
Yeah, I've actually got a good. This is a very good reason, I think. So when I was like 6 or 7 years old, never watched football, didn't really care about it, just no passion for the game really at all. But a friend of mine, diehard Cubs, Bears, everything, and his father was like a diehard Bears fan, and watched a couple of games with him, got kind of interested in it. And 6 months after watching my first Bears game, his father passed away. And kind of as kind of as just like anything, the first kind of team that you watch or get attached to, I just felt like it was necessary to stick with him. So I've been through the thick and thin. I've watched him in their terrible seasons. I've watched him with Rex Grossman go to a Super Bowl somehow. I've watched, the whole thing from start to finish. And now I just love rubbing the Khalil Mack thing in all of these Raiders fans' faces. But other than that, you can't really complain about how they've been playing so far. It's been a fun season. This is one of the best Bears seasons that I can remember in a long time.
Yeah, it's been a great season. It's been a surprising season for the Bears. Mitchell Trubisky looks like he's taken the steps to become a franchise quarterback this year. How do you see him? Do you think he is the future of this franchise? Do you have that 10, 15-year guy under center right
now? With the quarterback history that we have, yeah, he could easily be a 10 to 15-year guy at this point.
He just has to be under 20 interceptions, and you'll keep him.
Yeah. As long as he's not Jay Cutler, we're good. I think he's as good as we can get at the current moment. I don't think there's any one guy. I don't want to put all the onus on just the quarterback, but I think he's done a really good job at just kind of managing the game. He's not going to win you a ton of games. He's not going to lose you a ton of games. And that, I think, is music to my ears. Just that. Because we've had so many guys in the past who have thrown away games late. The picks, the fumbles, just everything. His ability to run the football has been shocking to me. Like his ability to kind of maneuver around the pocket, get out of tackles, find just weird ways to get yards, whether it's 2 yards or 5 yards or 25 yards. Just the ability to do that I like it. He's reading the game, I think, a lot better than a lot of other quarterbacks that we've had in the past, and I think that helps, obviously, too. But, I don't want to discredit the fact that we have two really good running backs, in my opinion. Offensive line isn't great, but it's not terrible. And the receivers, I think, have been really good. Taylor Gabriel's been great. They've got a lot of really shifty, fast, versatile receivers and skill position players.
Gabriel's been great for you guys.
Yeah, he's been great. Obviously, Trey Burton's been really good as a tight end. He's got a lot of weapons, and I think that definitely helps. But you do have to give him some credit just for his ability to keep us in games. Even last week, the Patriots game where he threw that 55-yard pass at the end of the game. I didn't think he was going to even hit the end zone, to be honest, just because I didn't think he had that type of arm. So to be able to get us that close, while it was painful, it's also been really fun to watch. And you can't ask for too much more than what he's been able to do. I'd love to see Mahomes in the same situation with the Bears too. It'd be even better, I think. But for now, I think he's a good quarterback. I think he can play in this league for a long time. And I think as long as we've got a good defense, we're always going to be in games.
Yeah, that's great. I want to get to some NBA talk before we have to run because that is actually your forte. If people didn't realize, his handle is Maroney. So he is an NBA guy through and through. So I have a beef with all the context that surrounds the NBA where everyone's like, oh, the strength is so shifted on the West, and now that LeBron's there, the East is just awful. And I'm like, I look at it, and I look at all the teams, and yes, the West is really superstar heavy, but I see a whole lot of complete teams on the East. Is the perception that the West is that much better than the East a reality, or am I kind of in the right realm here?
I think you're in the right realm. I think both conferences have their positives and negatives. I do think the West has, talent-wise, if you look at the top 20, 25 NBA players, I think they probably have a few more than the East. But, I mean, in terms of the actual watchability of the teams and the way that they play, there's been some really surprising teams on the Eastern Conference. I think the Knicks are playing really, really well, considering the talent that they have and considering what we expected of them.
I think a team like Orlando, and I think the Nets have
Brooklyn Nets are great.
Pretty good basketball.
I've been ringing the Brooklyn Nets bell for 2 or 3 years now, even though they've been through the tank and the process and all that stuff.
Yep.
I love the fact that they got Sean Marks and Atkinson and the players that they got. Even D'Angelo Russell. I've talked to him a few different times, and I just think that culture has been built up, and I think it's good. I do think these teams are going to be good in a few years, and I think they're positioning themselves very well for free agency. And I think that's when you'll start to see the shift happen. I do think that there's going to be players that look out there and say, okay, the Nets really don't have a bona fide superstar. I'll go there. I'll take the chance. And maybe there's another.
Karis LeVert developing. He's showing that he could be a scorer. Rondé Hollis-Jefferson is a legit NBA player. Jared Allen could end up being one of the best centers in the East by the end of this year, I think, with his just overall athletic ability. So I like what my Nets are doing. Other teams in the East that I like that are complete teams. The Bucks have Giannis Antetokounmpo, a top 10 player. You can't discount him. The Raptors, I think getting Kawhi Leonard is a steal for them and unbelievable. We need to stop pretending that he's not the best player in the East by far, that everyone forgot what he could do because he didn't play last year, but he had the Warriors on the ropes single-handedly before he got injured. It's just there's other teams in the East that, like you were saying, the Knicks are good. The Wizards are a complete basketball team. I just see a lot of very good teams in the East, and like you said, I think night in and night out, we're going to get better play in the East and more competitive games, where in the West, you're going to see the top Western teams blowing out the lower Western teams.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I do think that I think you may be discrediting the Western Conference bottom part of the table. I think the Phoenix Suns are an interesting team. I think, the Sacramento Kings have pulled off a couple of wins when we didn't expect them to. There are some teams down there at the bottom that definitely have a lot of talent. Dallas has been really fun to watch. But yeah, I mean, I think in the Eastern Conference, the same thing. I've really enjoyed watching the Orlando Magic play. I can't believe believe I am saying this.
I feel
But
bad for Aaron Gordon and Evan Fournier. I really like
Eric,
both of those guys, and they have been stuck in the mud
yep,
down there, too, and they've stuck it out. And they are both, if they're in bigger markets, I think Aaron Gordon is a borderline superstar and Fournier is a borderline star. I think they're both
yeah,
that talented.
yeah. Aaron Gordon is spectacular. I mean, he came into the league not being able to really shoot the basketball very well from outside, and now we're seeing that he can actually hit that shot. He's been much more consistent offensively and defensively, just better. He's a really, really tough matchup for anybody. I saw him at the pickup runs in New York.
He reminds me a
He's
lot of
good.
Blake Griffin, just without the injuries. Like, he really is a very similar style player, and his
Yeah,
growth as a player is very similar to Griffin, where they both have now developed the shot. Griffin obviously shooting a three now, but it's like they are very similar type of players.
yes, no doubt about it. I give so much credit to players who are able to look themselves in the mirror and say, I need to work on this. I need to do this in order to get better. There's not many players out there that do that sort of thing anymore, just because, look, they've grown up in this atmosphere where every single person says they're great players. And, you know, the best of the best try and find any way they can to improve. And like I said, I give Blake Griffin and Aaron Gordon a lot of credit for working on their craft, sticking it out, trying to find ways to improve. And really, the jump shot was always the most important thing for a guy like Blake Griffin or a guy like Aaron Gordon. And to be able to master that, or at least get it down to a point where teams have to now play true defense on you, it's really impressive. And but they deserve a lot of credit for being able to kind of own up to it and be that, initiate that change, I guess you could say, and be able to stick up for themselves and do that. So it's been really fun to watch. Like I said, I think the whole NBA, you really can't complain. This league is just continuing to impress.
Awesome.
It's so entertaining. You just can't, every single day there's something new. The Jimmy Butler news that came out a few hours ago is now having people buzzing. You know,
yeah,
it's like,
I think did Billy King just get hired by the Rockets? I think Billy King got hired.
I can't say anything bad about Daryl Morey. He's an incredible person, really nice. But on top of that,
4 first rounders.
Every single time. Yes, I understand it's 4. But every single time that you hear his name come up in trade rumors or trade talk, you know that he's going to make the best of it. And when he hired Mike D'Antoni, do you know how many people were against that move? They thought, no, he couldn't coach the Lakers, he couldn't coach the Knicks. Why would you throw him in with James Harden? They lose Dwight Howard. What the heck is going to happen? Blah, 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 blah. The same narrative. They add Chris Paul. Now there's 2 ball-dominant players. How are you going to play together? This isn't going to work. There's so many times that he's proven me wrong, to the point where I'm never, ever going to kind of question what he's going to do until it changes. And I think in this scenario, when you look at the Rockets roster, and if it's 4 first-round picks, we've got to take into consideration. You've got Chris Paul under locks for four seasons. You've got James Harden under locks for 4 years. If you get Jimmy Butler, and it sounds like you would be stupid not to believe that he's going to re-sign wherever somebody trades him to. But if he re-signs, then you've got Jimmy Butler for 4 years. So, and Capella, not even to mention him. So you've got 4 guys that are, stars in this league right now that could play for the next 2 to 3 to 4 years and still keep a competitive team out there. So I don't think, the 4 first-round picks is the image of it is really bad. You think of the Billy King trade, you think of the Nets, you think of all that. But when you think about the player they're getting and the trajectory that they're on and the timeline, I think they're really only giving up 1 to 2 real first-round picks. The rest of them are just glorified second-round picks.
Well, I hope so for their sake. All right, so now that we got done being nice to all the NBA and talking about how fun it is to watch and how great it is, let's get down to the fact that no one else has a chance to win a championship besides Golden State, unless barring injuries to their whole team. Out of the top teams to challenge Golden State, particularly I said Lakers, Rockets, Celtics, Raptors, who can challenge Golden State this year, and do you see them being a little too complacent and getting upset?
They almost did it last year. The Rockets almost did it last year. I'd never count them out. Obviously, you mentioned the Lakers and the Rockets, and the Raptors and the Celtics. I think if there's a team outside of that, I think the Bucks are pretty well positioned as well. I know that may sound like an overstatement at this current
I
moment, but
love that they got Brook Lopez. I think that is one of the sneakiest
steal.
moves I've ever seen because he takes so much scoring pressure off of Antetokounmpo. I love Brook Lopez. Like, I was a Nets guy, and we talk about guys that have developed. His three-point shooting ability now is insane, and he's a legitimate scorer. He's a 20-point-a-night guy that's going to take a lot of pressure off of Middleton and Antetokounmpo to constantly score 25 to 30 a game.
Without a doubt. I love that signing. I like Chris Middleton. I think he's a very underrated player. You know, Budenholzer, he's done a really good job. I think that he's a coach that definitely amplifies this team and puts them in that category. I think defensively, they have the length and the size to be able to match up with a Golden State or, you know, a Lakers or whoever it may be. So that'd be the team, like, if they were to make a run and, you know, catch fire and everything fell right, that it makes a lot of sense. Like, a team like that would be a really, really tough out to a team like Golden State, just because you have to find teams that match up with this Golden State team, and there's just not many out there. You have to be able to rotate 1 through 5. That was why the Rockets were so successful against the Warriors early on, is because they were able to play extremely sound defense on a team that's historically great offensively, and to be able to switch anytime they wanted. I mean, PJ Tucker at potentially the 5, Capella coming in there with pick and rolls. You know, the matchups were good, and I just don't think you can find that very often in the NBA. And a team like the Lakers, maybe. I just don't see the talent necessarily there to be able to do it for 7 games. But if you look at the other teams around the league, the Celtics are definitely kind of another team that you look at and you say, okay, you have Tatum, Brown, Hayward, Kyrie, whoever you want to throw out there as Marcus Smart, all really, really good kind of defenders, can switch on and off wherever they want to. Al Horford's just like the prototypical like switch kind of center guy who can go out on guards at times and then also come into the paint. Those are the teams that you look at and you say, those are the teams that could potentially upset this Golden State team. Do you think any of them will? No, but I think the Bucks are right there at the top. I would say the Celtics, the Rockets, just because they've done that, they've had that success there. You know that the talent that they have kind of meshes and matches with what Golden State tries to do. So I think those would be the 3 teams that I would look out for. Toronto, possibly. I just, with Toronto, my kind of hesitancy with them is just the fact that you don't have a ton of depth there. OG Anunoby's great, you know, Kawhi Leonard's good, but Kyle Lowry's getting up there in age. I like Kyle Lowry. I think he's a great player, but you know, at some point you're going to have to give him a break. And Van Vliet coming in there isn't necessarily going to stop a guy like Steph Curry from scoring or going to stop a guy like Klay Thompson from coming off screen. So I think for them, the thing that I just get scared or worried about is just like an injury at any sort of time, and I'd count them out. So that's where I kind of stand on it. I don't think there's any team, like you said, that's going to beat the Warriors, but I still find it entertaining that every single team is gunning for them night in and night out. They want the best, and we'll see what happens.
I completely agree with you. And one last question before we wrap this up, and it's a question that I don't think enough people are asking, but I think is going to come to pass. Where is Klay Thompson playing next year? Because I really see a Harden situation going on with him where he's won his Harden didn't win championships, but Klay Thompson has championships. He's always been the next guy down. He was the second member of the Splash Brothers, and then he was the third member of the Big Three with Draymond, and now he's the third scoring option. He's going to want to branch out and be like, I'm a superstar. I can win games. I can be the center and focal point and win a chip. There was rumors about the Lakers. I would love to see him on my Brooklyn Nets. Do you think that he tests free agency, or do you think he just goes right back to Golden State?
Well, the obvious answer here is that he goes back to Golden State. We all know that he's pretty soft-spoken. He doesn't really speak out too often. He hasn't really made a name for himself necessarily in that aspect of things. You know, he's not out in the media pushing his narratives or saying outrageous claims like your Draymonds or your Kevin Durant's or people like that. he's pretty to himself. So it's hard to kind of get a gauge on what he could or couldn't do. But like even the people that I spoke with, like they think it's a really strong possibility that the Lakers are in play here, just because his father played there.
Yeah,
they've got a lot of ties there with the Lakers, and I wouldn't be shocked one bit. I think not only that, if you put Klay Thompson alongside a guy like LeBron James, that's like the best pairing that you can possibly have. Klay Thompson is the best shooter that I've seen, I think, ever. Everyone talks about Steph Curry. Yes, he's a great shooter too. Just mechanically, Klay Thompson, it's pretty hard to beat how he shoots the basketball. And I think with a guy like that alongside LeBron James, who loves to kick it out to shooters, who loves to space the floor and get guys opportunities open, that'd be a really, really fun watch. I don't know if it happens, but if I were to guess right now, I would say the Lakers, and I'd say Golden State behind that again. I don't think he would even think about playing anywhere else aside from maybe those two places, just because he's winning championships in Golden State. He's been there his whole career. His legacy is already kind of defined, but if you want a few more rings with Golden State or in LA, I think it even gets better.
All right, so that's unfortunate news for me as a Nets fan, but with that,
sorry, I think Kyrie or maybe Jimmy Butler, or I don't know. I don't think the Nets necessarily need a superstar. I don't. I think it's tough to say exactly what they'll do, but I'd like to see them go out and get a guy like Chris Middleton or a player of that caliber. Where
we're going to be like a Pistons. If we win a championship, we're going to do it the Chauncey Billups, Rip Hamilton, Tayshaun Prince, Ben Wallace, Piston style, where Rasheed Wallace is a bona fide superstar, and I think a top 50 player ever to play the game. He just never showed it in terms of his personality. He wasn't the type of guy to brag about it, but if anyone knows basketball, and if you watch Rasheed in his prime, the guy was easily a top 10 player in the NBA. I loved Rasheed Wallace.
Yeah, he was great. I loved him. Ball don't lie.
Yeah, ball don't lie. All right, Oliver. This was lots of fun. You dropped a whole bunch of knowledge, especially when we got, started off with a lot with the big three, really ended it off with a lot with the NBA. Good stuff in the middle. Really appreciate you coming on. Oliver Maroney of lineup.com and everything Big Three. Thanks for coming on, buddy.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me.
Again, you can find Oliver at @OMaloneyNBA on both Twitter and Instagram. I said that right? Oh, Maroney, not Maloney. I said your last name wrong. What's wrong with me? And again, I'm your host, Alex Cuesta, Sports Opinions Podcast. Find me on Twitter and Instagram, @Cuesta30. Find Sports Opinions on Twitter at SportsOpinion30, Instagram SportsOpinions30. Visit the Facebook page and spread the word. Go listen almost anywhere you can listen to podcasts. Spotify, iHeartRadio, YouTube, Spreaker, Apple Podcasts, Google Play Music. Once again, this was a Sports Opinions Podcast. Oliver, awesome. Thank you for coming on, everybody. Have a good one.